Sandra, let me first say it is an honor to be here with you. I'm an admirer of yours, and I think you're quite the hero.
Thank you so much. It's my honor as well to have you with me. I'm honored to have you with us to be together. Yes.
Anyway, you and I are very different in the sense of we both speak on the subject of Islam, but I'm somewhat of a theoretician. I've studied Islam for 40 years, but I've never lived Islam. And so I thought there were some questions that I could ask that might be to ask somebody who's lived it. And the first question I would like to ask is, when I think of you, I think of a brave woman who's an apostate, which means that you're living in danger. So what is your life like as an apostate from Islam?
Well, it has two sides. The first side, that I'm free from Sharia law. I'm free from all this stressful life, all the abuse that I had under living under Islamic Sharia law. I feel like a relief, but at the same time, not fully relieved. The fact that we are facing a government in Canada here who's fighting us, not fighting for us, and trying to pass the Islamophobia motions and all that. I don't feel secure. I don't feel like I don't feel safe. Like
Sandra, let me ask you something. The supreme Islamophobe would be an apostate. So to some degree, if they actually pass this law and implement it to the fullest, the Canadian government would hunt you down and arrest you because you're the biggest kind of Islamophobe. Do I read this right?
Yes, they gonna. I don't know yet what's gonna happen. We will wait until what's the final decision, what they're gonna make. And yes, definitely, it's gonna be hard for us to criticize Islam. It's Sharia law. Islamophobia motion. It's a Sharia law motion. Actually,
it's Sharia blasphemy law.
Yes, it's a Sharia blasphemy law technically, but they're bringing it in a different name, in a different way. Of course, using the taqiyya and the deceiving and trying to keep peace, and also removes the suspicions that terrorism is related to Islam. That's what the ultimate goal.
Now, another question I have for you is, I have never lived inside of a black garb in the tropical heat, but when I see pictures of women in the Middle East and it's summertime and they're draped in black and they have the niqab on, you've worn this apparel. How comfortable is it in the summertime? Very practical question.
Oh my God, it's not funny at all. It's so hard, and I've been actually kicked out from school. The fact that I argue it with the teachers, and it's hard. Like we cannot breathe. The temperature in Saudi Arabia, it's very hot, and we cannot, like, it's not even healthy. You're not inhaling the air, the fresh air. You're not inhaling a fresh air, and as well the sweat, and it's not comfortable. It's very difficult feeling. It's not even funny.
So when I hear American women say that they feel free in their hijab and their, I don't want to use the word burqa, but all that they feel free in it, you don't feel free.
Of course not. What free? Wrapping yourself like a mummy. Like what's free? This is not free. This is the freedom. Like they and many of them, they don't even know why they are wearing the hijab, or what's the story of hijab to begin with started. It's actually just to distinguish the division between the Sikh slave and the Muslim woman. That's the whole story. If you ask them, many Muslim women, they don't even know the story of hijab. They just wear it because they're brainwashed. They're being brainwashed with it, and since they're young, they're thinking that if they wear the hijab, it's more holy, righteous protection from any sexual assault and whatever. But yet, even in Saudi Arabia, many women, they got sexually assaulted and actually also raped. And around the Kaaba itself, they got sexually harassed and sexually assaulted. And around the Kaaba when they do the polygamy.
Well, I have another question for you. When I was a professor, a Muslim student came into my office and saw a picture of my daughter. And he says, "Oh, is that your wife?" And I was stunned that he would think that someone that young could be my wife. But then of course, Muhammad married a child bride. And so I was going to ask you, in Islamic countries, is marriage to what I would call children, let's say under the age of, say, 14 or 15, is that common?
Of course, in every Muslim country, the percentage of the underage marriage, it's actually high, and it's also increasing. The fact
Really?
that yes, it's not even decreasing; it's increasing, especially now at the time of war, like especially because you know what's going on in Iraq and Syria and Yemen. Yemen, more than 50% of the girls married underage at age of 7, 8 years old. Like,
No.
and in Islam, there is no minimum age for marriage. A grown man, can marry a baby girl like in a cradle, in a diapers, actually. Like, there's no minimum age for marriage, and they're allowed to do sighing and all the groping and all the sexual pleasure with the baby, and that's what Muhammad did with Aisha between 6 and 9, and then 9 he consummated the marriage, which is, we call it rape, but they call it marriage. That's true, and that's happening, and it's also increasing. It's not decreasing.
Well, I have another question for you. In the marriage of inside of the harem, if you have multiple wives, we know that in Muhammad's harem, if you read the hadith carefully, there was a great deal of jealousy, and as a matter of fact, the harem divided into two parts. Is jealousy common within marriages with multiple wives, or are they harmoniously live together?
There is a different cases. Some cases they can't. Some cases they got fights together, and some cases they accept it, because the Muslim women, 99.9%, I would say, if it's not all of them, all Muslim women, they being brainwashed since they're young that this is something, it's okay, and the man has authority over women, and they have to accept it because she has to obey the husband, and if she rebel against him, she considered like not a good Muslim woman. She cannot fight against this act, and even if she has jealousy, she cannot even show it. She has to accept it and submit to the man, because that's how she show to that she's a really good Muslim woman. She has to submit to it.
Well, I'd like to ask you one more question about marriage. When I first heard about FGM, female genital mutilation, I was horrified. I could not believe the barbarity of it. Is it really that common, or does it vary from country to country?
It's common, and also it's different from country to country. It's different. I would say like for example, in Egypt and Yemen and Somalia, mainly in Sudan, major African Muslim country, they do it. But again, we cannot always, with Muslims, we cannot have statistics. They can never have we can never know exactly like what's the number, because they hide it, and also they play the taqiyya. Oh, this is not belong to Islam, we don't do that. And many girls, they do it as young as like babies, like 5 years old, and how can we know what they're doing to this baby and behind doors, right?
Well, do you know if it is common in Iran?
Yes, of course. Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping it wasn't.
No, it is. And see, as I said, majority of Muslim women, they got caught up a psychological problem with a syndrome, Stockholm syndrome. So whatever they grow with the slaughter, they grow with these men taking control of them, and the Stockholm syndrome that they have, all of them, they have this psychological problem, and they will defend it, and they will say, yeah, it's okay.
Well, I have another question to ask you about the family and marriage, and that is, in Saudi Arabia, I hear stories, in particular some Hindus have told me this, that the women who go to Saudi Arabia to work as servants, particularly inside of the home, that rape is not unknown. Do you know anything about this?
The Hindu woman, you said?
Oh, a Hindu told me this,
okay.
that the Hindus and others are treated very badly in Saudi Arabia, and that in particular the women who come in from the Philippines and from Hindu areas to work within the home as female servants, that rape is not unknown amongst them. Do you know anything about that?
I would say majority of them, they got raped by the Saudi men, because to them they look at them as a ama. In Arabic they call them ama, or hand right possessor, malikat al yamin. So they have the authority to have sex with them. They are like the slaves to them.
Mm.
Yeah, so many of them, and there is many cases as well that it's been revealed in Saudi Arabia of Filipino women and Indonesian. Actually, I lived in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis, they treat actually us, me as a Palestinian living in Saudi Arabia, we've been called a foreigner. We're not even, considered. We consider second class citizen to Saudis, Saudi native people. So anyone who's not Saudi native, already it's been treated as a second class, and they don't treat them with respect. So, and also these maids, they come behind doors, they do whatever they want with them. They put them on starvation, they make them work long hours, and on top of that, the rape. Yes, of course, it's happening.
The thing is, I'm learning, talking with you as someone who has lived and practiced Islam, is that Islam is practiced just like it's taught. That is, theory and practice go together. It works out just like I was afraid it would. That is, this is all true.
Of course, this is all true. As I always say, I did not just read about Islam. I lived it. I lived under Sharia law. Living in Saudi Arabia, exactly, you're living with ISIS. Nothing, not more, not less. You go to Ar-Raqqa, you go to Saudi Arabia. It's the same treatment. They treat people, that there's the Hayat al-Amr al-Ma'ruf wa Nahy al-Munkar, the Sharia law police on the streets. Women must cover whatever we see. It's even worse when you actually live it. It's different. It's different when you're really inside. Looking from outside, it might be a bit not really, can feel it. But once you in, it's like you're inside a jail.
If you're in an Islamic country and you see the West on the media, now part of what is put in the media about the West embarrasses me and I find disgusting. But at the same time, if you're living under Sharia and you see other people doing things, is there ever any envy there? Or is it just, what is the reaction?
I didn't get that question right.
Well, say if you're a woman and you see how life is lived in the West. Now, let me give you an example. Noni Darwish, who's a noted apostate here in America, said that when she was young, that one of the things that she would see these pictures in magazines of a bride and a wedding, and she says, I so wanted to be a princess for a day, to be a queen for a day. And so therefore there was a longing for this. And I just wondered, do you ever, if you're inside of the Sharia, ever look outside in the media and go, oh, I wish that I could live that? Or is it disgusting and there's no envy?
Oh yeah, I hear you now. Actually, since I was young, since I was teenage, without me looking, I was already wanted to escape Sharia. Without me, before I know exactly what's going on really outside, in other countries. But definitely, yes. When we looked at when we watch like a movie or like a magazine, or see women who strong ladies who can speak up their minds and they're not wearing hijab. Of course, I always wanted to live this life, to be civilized, to be me, to be free, to remove this black stupid cover that they wrapping us with it. And I just wanted to, go ahead and live my life freely, and without having me feeling that I'm suppressed, like I'm under pressure. I cannot, and I want to free my thoughts. To criticize. I was always rebelling, criticizing Quran, criticizing Muhammad, criticizing the Sharia law is the way of life. It's like a constitution itself. I was always criticizing all these. That's why I was always, of course, slowly start to admire or wanting to leave Middle East, to leave Saudi Arabia, and that's what happened. That's why I'm here, and I made it. I did it.
Well, I'm so glad that you're free. I only wish that let's see, if there's 1.5 billion Muslims, roughly 700 million women could also be free as well. My heart goes out to the suffering of the Islamic women.
I do hope so, but at the end of the day, you cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped, you know. Unless they want it, unless they realize, unless they see Muhammad, they unveil Muhammad and see the real picture of Muhammad, and also until they start looking at the Quran without the halo of the this they put it around the Quran, and to see things the way it is, to see the reality of Islam, and not to be not to lie to themselves. Like, you can lie to each other, to other people, but at the end of the day you cannot lie to yourself. I can never I can never myself, like, I couldn't never accept things that they taught us when I was in school. Since I was in school, they taught us that we have to hate the infidels, the kafir, we have to kill the Jewish people, anti-Semitism, we have to kill the Christian, we have to dominate, we have to go for jihad, and all that stuff. These things I start to see it the way it is. It's not a way of life. That's not the way to go. Like, that's not. It's against humanity before any god. It's against.
Let me ask you a question here. You used the word kafir, which I also used. How common is the calling me a kafir? If you were in, is that the common word for me amongst Muslims speaking amongst themselves in Arabic, that I would be kafir?
Of course, this is the actual word that we, we as a kafir, we always need to use it, because that's the word. لقد كفر الذين, like in Quran, kafir, al-kuffar, قاتلوا الكفار, kill the, it's not actually the infidel. I would say the kafir will be more right than the word.
Well, when in my work, I'd never translate the word kafir as unbeliever or infidel. I say that is the word. Let us use the word, because then it causes people to think about what it means. I maintain that the word kafir is the worst word in the human language.
That's so true, and it came from Muhammad. He is the one who invented it, because he called anyone who do not believe in him kafir, and he should be put to death if he did not accept Islam.
So my usage of the word kafir is correct.
100%.
It's been a delight talking with you. I want to do this more with you because, like I say, I read books, I read media, but it's very different to talk with someone who can give me the honesty of what happens in the Islamic world from actual practice, not just the theory. So this has been fun. Let's do it again.
Amen. It's my pleasure, and definitely we're going to do it more.
What's life for you like being an apostate?
Wonderful. I'm free.